Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss how, despite the government assuring us that they are getting the best trade deals in the world, the actual Brexit economic data is painting a very different picture. A picture that needs showing to as many people as possible. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, guess what? Guess what? We've got to the end of crime week and Boris Johnson stopped committing crimes for a while anyway. Sick of talking about the tub of custard. So it's back onto Brexit again. I will worry about the Prime Minister again next week. Unless, of course, something remarkable happens this weekend. But the government have announced another little trade deal. Another agreement in principle, but, you know, no reason to suppose that it won't actually be in place eventually. It's with Singapore. And unlike the more comprehensive trade deals that we've been negotiating with Japan, the EU, Australia, New Zealand, the United States, that are all really bad for our economy, this one isn't actually undercutting our own businesses as far as I can tell. As such, it's actually the sort of trade agreement we should be coming up with, I guess. You know, at another time, it wouldn't even be remarked upon. You know, it will help, as far as we can tell, it will help some businesses in the UK a bit. But the government are lauding it as the world's most comprehensive digital trade deal. Most comprehensive? Oh, really? Is it as comprehensive as the access we had for digital services in the single market then? No! For one probable reason and two certain reasons. The probable reason is that this agreement, which hasn't been published, so we can't tell, we haven't had trade experts been able to say anything definitive on it, is not likely to give UK businesses completely free rein in Singapore's market. There will still be barriers, hoops to jump through. You know, the first certain reason is that Singapore, though a wealthy country, is not capable of providing as much business as all the countries in the single market. The idea that we could actually get as much, let alone more business with Singapore, the other end of the world, alone, as opposed to the entire single market on our doorstep, even for digital services, is something that not even a moderately self-aware child could believe. And the second certain reason is that even if this deal meant that we did have full unfettered access, people were going, Phil, you haven't seen it, it might be. All right, let's say it does give us full unfettered access to Singapore's digital services market. And even if Singapore was able to replace all of our lost trade entirely with the EU, it would still not represent the most comprehensive digital trade deal, only at best an equal one. Because you cannot get more comprehensive than free trade, genuinely free trade. And that's what we had in the EU. But the statements from the government don't even claim that it removes all trade barriers, simply that it reduces some. So it's not, even by their own interpretation of this agreement, the most comprehensive then, is it? But the government keep lauding everything they do as the best in the world, world-beating, best in the world, most comprehensive. The new trade minister left the United States this week, empty-handed of course, after threatening them with a trade war. That was a good plan, wasn't it? Going to the United States to try and persuade them to give us a trade deal, and then coming away having threatened them with a trade war. I might talk about that in another video. But she said that she'd explained to our American cousins, after threatening them with a trade war, that the UK is the best place to do business. The best place to do business? I'm not sure that the business world is convinced of this. Michael Saunders, on the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England, top economist, gave a speech just over a week ago. The purpose of the speech obviously was to suggest policy to grow our economy, so on. But in amongst his graphs and charts, and I'll link his speech below, on our economic recovery, he had graphs and charts, and there was a comparison of trade flow with the EU. Uh-oh. Now, this is total trade flow, bear in mind, as a percentage of our GDP. That's imports and exports added together. It compares the UK with what it calls the main EU countries, and they are stated as Germany, France, Italy and Spain. So, you know, the big economies. The comparable economies with the UK. Now, the fact that our relative trade flow is consistently lower than these main EU countries isn't what I'm going to pick on here. That's neither here nor there. What I want to focus on is the pattern of growth, the comparative pattern of growth. I'm using the EU bars only to say what is possible, which direction we should be going in. For example, our trade flow increased significantly over the first decade of the 21st century. But not as much as those other EU countries. You can argue that collectively they did better. Fine, great. But it went up. It levelled out round about the time of the global crash, of course. Briefly went down, of course, and then started to recover. The pattern was the same with the UK as those other EU countries. But then over the past decade, there are two things where our trade flow has differed, the pattern has differed from those EU countries. Over the past decade, ours stalled. Up until 2019, it trickled generally upwards. It was, as a proportion of GDP, higher in 2019 than it was in 2011. But it trickled very slowly upwards. The growth was poor. The EU, on the other hand, those four EU economies, when they recovered from the global crash, they made significant trade growth. Theirs went up significantly. Another chart highlighting the way the economy is managed by Labour and the Conservatives. Labour grew our economy. You could say that they didn't grow it as much as these four EU giants combined, but they grew it. The Conservatives caused it to stall when those same EU countries were experiencing significant growth again. But that's not the end of it. This isn't a party political lesson. I may give one of those in another video if I dare. But it's a Brexit one. The second divergence. In 2020, our trade flow dropped markedly. So did that of those EU countries. The pandemic meant that much of Europe shut up shop for significant portions of the year. Global trade has been disrupted. Chinese factories close. It takes a long time to get them started up again, cause massive problems. You know, global shortage of containers as they're getting stuck in and around ports all over the world. But in 2021, look at this, 2021, the trade flow of Germany, France, Spain and Italy combined leapt up. Collectively, those EU countries got their trade flow back to almost 2019 levels. Just under. Didn't just go up, it shot up. They almost completely recovered. Look at ours. Will you just look at ours? It's not just that it didn't shoot up. It's not even that it stalled. It went down. In the same year that comparable EU economies almost fully recovered, ours got worse. And yet the government bang on about our trade being back to where it was. No, it isn't. This chart, produced by a senior economist at the Bank of England, shows that our trade is worse in the year of Brexit than it was in the year of COVID. And for those who will try and say, if you showed the UK's data in isolation, there'll be some people that that'll claim, yeah, but we've still got COVID, global issues, blah, blah, blah. That's what must be doing the damage. It's the global issues. Two things to say to that. Firstly, the government keeps saying our trade is back to where it was. That's a lie. Doesn't matter about the reason. Never mind the reason for now. It's a lie. And if they will tell you one lie, why not another? And another. And another. What will it take for people to at least entertain the notion that maybe, just maybe, this government that constantly gets caught out in lies might be lying about Brexit as well? But the second thing to say is that these figures aren't in isolation. We're comparing them. Those EU countries who also have COVID on their plate have almost completely recovered their trade flow. They have the same COVID problems, the same microchip shortages, the same container shortages, all the same global issues that the UK has, and yet they have recovered. And as I noted in a recent video, using this chart, the only part of the UK that has almost recovered this year, almost completely recovered, is Northern Ireland. And that's because they never had to leave the customs union and single market in most practical respects. There can be no more excuses when you try and blame our economic performance on any external factor. The only one that doesn't apply to those other EU countries is Brexit. Their trade flow has shot back up. Ours has gone down. I rest my case, my lord. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.